Hey, guess what? Republicans actually have a plan to repeal Obamacare in the U.S. Senate, and they're going to vote on it as soon as next week. Well, maybe. Possibly. Well, probably not. Hey, everybody, it's Chad Hasty, host of the Chad Hasty Show, which airs weekday mornings 8:30 to 11 a.m. Central Time on NewsTalk 95.1 FM and 790 a.m. KFYO. Well, U.S. Senator John Cornyn of Texas coming out on Monday and telling reporters, hey, guess what? Don't fear. We have a new bill. It's got to be scored by the CBO, and we could vote on it as soon as next week. According to thehill.com, Senator John Cornyn Monday saying Senate Republicans want to roll out a new draft of their bill to repeal and replace Obamacare as soon as this week, with a vote happening next week. Quote, we're just trying to get a good picture of what the alternatives are. Hopefully next week we'll be prepared to take up the bill and vote on it, the number 2 Senate Republican told reporters. He added that Republicans still waiting to hear back from the Congressional Budget Office. Oh, we know how that might go. The CBO could release an updated draft of their bill by the end of the week. A Senate GOP aide said senators are expected to get briefed on revisions that have been made to the bill at a lunch on Tuesday, and a revised text of the bill could be released later on this week. Cornyn's comments, of course, come as the GOP, and the Senate GOP in particular, is in what seems like disarray after comments over the weekend and over the July 4th holiday, where you had Mitch McConnell saying, well, we might have to work with Democrats on a few issues. John McCain on Sunday saying, yeah, it looks like the repeal of Obamacare is probably dead. May have to work with the Democrats on a few things. I'm not against working with the Democrats on a few things when it comes to health care, but let's be clear here. The Democrats are obstructing anything and everything that has to do with President Trump. The Democrats don't want to work with the Republican Party. The Democrats don't want to come up with a solution for Obamacare. They want to prop up Obamacare, let it linger on a little bit longer, and eventually move on to a single-payer system. That is what Democrats want to do. Democrats don't want to fix anything. Republicans want to go through and they want to try and lower premiums. They want to try and prop this up. We'll see what the actual bill looks like and what the CBO has to say, though I'm not that concerned with the Congressional Budget Office and what the CBO has to say. If you remember, the Congressional Budget Office, nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, said that Obamacare was going to be great and wonderful. Wasn't going to hurt the U.S. economy. Wasn't going to hurt taxpayers. Was not going to hurt your insurance. Insurance premiums weren't going to skyrocket. Guess what? That was all wrong from the Congressional Budget Office. So let's not act as though the Congressional Budget Office is this all-knowing being that is unelected and somehow can shoot down bills. Well, actually, that's what they do. They do shoot down pieces of legislation because Republicans are scared to death of the CBO. They're scared to death of hearing that millions of Americans won't have health insurance. When millions of Americans already have health insurance, millions of Americans have health insurance that they can't afford, and millions of Americans in the future would choose, if they are able to, not to pay for health insurance that they couldn't afford in the first place. So there are a lot of moving parts on this. Look, nothing is done until a vote actually happens, and I'm not going to be convinced that a vote's going to happen until the vote actually happens. We've seen this game before. We've seen it with the House. We've seen it with the Senate, and we've heard from the U.S. Senator John Cornyn before that, yeah, we're going to have a vote on this, and it never actually happened. That's not a slight against Senator Cornyn. It's just a fact of where we are right now. A vote isn't going to happen, and I don't believe a vote's going to happen until the vote happens. Remember, Republicans can only lose 2 U.S. senators, so they got a slim margin to work with on this one, and every time the bill gets a little more conservative, they lose moderate votes. Every time the bill gets a little more moderate, they lose conservative votes. So look, you're still in dire territory here. There's still a lot of landmines. There's still a lot of working parts here. So nothing is a done deal. I still fear that Republicans will screw this up at some point, and we're heading down the road of a single-payer system. I hope I'm wrong on that. I hope that does not happen. Republicans have to do something, though. As I've said on in this video series before, as I've said on my radio show, Republican voters want action. Republican voters want this Congress to act on Obamacare. Will it happen? Hopefully it will. It has to, for the sake of the Republican Party, for the sake of these Republican elected officials, and I would say it has to for the sake of President Donald Trump and his future in the White House beyond, the next election. This is another thing that Republicans have to deal with, and I'll wrap up this video by saying this. The Senate can pass a bill, but they have to work with the House as well, because the House and the Senate eventually have to agree on something, and then it has to go to President Trump's desk where he's got to sign off. And the president has already said everybody needs to be covered. The president has said not only does everyone need to be covered, but it needs to lower premiums, lower taxes, and oh yes, the bill must have a heart, and the bill must be beautiful as well. Is that what we're going to see from the Senate? Remains to be seen. Let me know your thoughts below as far as the Senate and health care legislation. Do you think the Senate should repeal and replace Obamacare? Do you think the Senate should just repeal Obamacare and see what happens? Or do you think the Senate should move on to other pieces of legislation and just let the entire system collapse? Tune in to the Chad Hasty Show, weekday mornings, 8:30 to 11 a.m. Central Time, News Talk 95.1 FM, 790 a.m. KFYO. Follow me on Twitter, Chad Hasty Radio. That's Chad Hasty Radio. Have a great day.